Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you the final series of What If Naruto Was a Badass Genius. As I thank you all for following me on this wonderful journey. Thank you all for all of your help and your support, guys. I really appreciate all of it. Just know, I don't want any of you to be sad because you already know that new series are coming up. So don't be sad, guys, be happy. And also go ahead and check out the new episode of What If Naruto Was the Osushi King and enjoy that, guys. And over on Anime King 2, I post a new episode of What If Naruto pushed himself to his limit, so go ahead and enjoy it as well. And stay in tune for What If Naruto is a God Amongst Man. But now, let's get straight into this new episode, guys. Well, the final episode. I hope you enjoy. So the last time we left off, Sasuke and Mei came back to the village and told Tsunade what happened, as Tsunade was pissed, as this just made things even worse, as Obita had killed the Tsuchikage and framed the both of them. Naruto arrived to the village after a while as he went to visit Mikoto, as they were talking about the baby and other things when the baby arrived, and Naruto was also going to run the training of the kids at the Uchiha compound. He's thinking about going on a long sabbatical after he dealt with Madara and everything, well, Obito. As he told Tsunade she could still call him though, if she need anything. As Naruto talked to his mother, as they were talking about the rebuilding of the clan to do that. And if Karen wasn't bored for the both of them to have kids, well, Kushina wasn't going to force her or anything. As he also spoke to Mikoto about this, Yuji wasn't at the compound as she started back her ninja duties, as she's rarely seen these days. As Naruto was kind of happy that she wasn't here, as he went to visit Mikoto, as the both of them talked until the both of them fell asleep. Naruto then went by as he visited Kurasuke, as she was surprised that he will step foot in here, as they could just capture him, as Naruto told her that the Leaf wouldn't be apologizing for anything. She was beyond pissed and angry at him, as Naruto told them that he will find the real culprit behind this and show them, but she told him he wasn't going to leave. As Naruto told them if they come after Konoha or any one of the Leaf Shinobis, he will crush them himself. So he showed them the higher Shin, and he's not above killing thousands of them to prove his point. And with that, he vanished out of the place. At the Hidden Rain, Bito arrived as he released Yujito. Controlling the Biju, he set the Biju on the village, making Pain have to deal with it. As he dealt with Konan, Konan tried to beat him, but she was bested. As he was about to stab her, Naruto arrived. As Naruto stopped the man, intangibility, and ripped out his eyes out of his socket, making his body go down into the water, as there was a seal on it that prevented him from sinking. As Naruto imagined killing this man over and over in his head, but now with all of those thoughts, it was just squell. Only thing he wanted to see is this man dead. As Naruto's fist became engulfed in flames, as he shoved it right through the man's chest. As Obito just watched his life fade away, he failed. He failed Ren. Well, at least, probably, he will be able to see her. But what a miserable way to die. If Madara saw this, he'd be probably laughing after him, as his eyes shut forever. Naruto was informed that the 8 tails wasn't captured, as he fled on his own by side. So, Naruto went to gather the 2 tails, so he could bring Yujito back to Kumo. As he was about to bring Obita's body to Inoichi to get information. So yeah guys, that was basically last part we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check out for yourself. So, what do you say we start this new episode? We begin this episode at Konoha Interrogation Department. Naruto walked through the place like he was familiar with it. This was a very delicate place. A place hidden from many people, but he knew. He had Obita's corpse, but Obita managed to black off many memories. But Naruto knew that he wasn't good as Inoichi, as these were done as insurance, so in case he died, people wouldn't found out anything. Naruto's movements were halted by agents, as they immediately took him towards Inoichi. "You're quick," Inoichi said. "The situation required that I be quick about things," Naruto said. "This is Obito Uchiha, a student of my father, and someone who died in the Third Great Ninja War. I always thought there were similarities between his and Kakashi Jutsu, but I could never make the connection. I was quite shocked to find out that he was the person who gave Kakashi his Sharingan in the war." Inoichi was surprised. Who could have thought the student of Konoha Yellow Flash would turn out like this? "Have you told anyone?" "Of course not," Naruto said. "I will leave the removal and spreading memories to you. That is your department after all. I have done my part." "You're really not going to take part in things from now on?" asked Inoichi. Naruto nodded. "Unless they have anything to do with me, I'm done. It would be a shame for Konoha to lose their services. You know, if there's anyone quite like you in your generation, well, people who always stand out in their generation doesn't have good stories to tell. There was always something bad that happened to them," Naruto said. About 2 hours later, Yujito immediately got up. After regaining consciousness, she was taken by that masked man as he entered her mind and manipulated the Biju inside of her. She tried to fight him, but she stared into his hypnotic eyes and he turned her head all upside and down. She looked around. She was currently lying on a futon in the center of her room, as she didn't know where she was. "You're finally awake," said that voice, as she turned to see Naruto walking into the room. As she recognized this person, Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Was she safe? Or did he also take more Jinchurikis, as her heart pounded, trying to find a way to escape? She was confused when he looked rather amused. "What's so funny?" "What are you thinking?" Naruto asked. "What am I thinking?" she said. "We are amused by different things," Naruto said with a shrug. As she looked at him, was he reading her mind? Was he in her head? Was she wearing her emotion on her face? "I can't read your mind if that's what you're thinking," Naruto said. "But I'm rather good at reading people. It is very easy now since you're confused. Since you went through something troublesome." "Troublesome? Do you know what I went through?" she asked, as Naruto shrugged carelessly, and it made her pissed off. "You're safe. I killed the bad guy," he said. As she looked at him, looked into his eyes, she saw nothing in them. It made her feel rather uncomfortable. "You're not joking," she said. "I don't make much jokes," he said. "We are currently in the Hidden Leaf. You are in the Hidden Rain making a rampage. But I stopped you, and I had to pull some tricks to break you out of that mind control that he uses Sharingan to do. You should be fine now. If you can move, please stand up. I need to take you home before A march over here once more." "Why would A-sama come here?" she asked. "Konoha was framed for your capture," Naruto said, "but we talked it out." As she nodded, Naruto said she went on a rampage in the Hidden Rain. "Did she kill people?" "Nothing bad happened," Naruto said, seeing the look on her face. "I stopped you before you could cause too much damage. The people also know that you are being under control, so they don't hold any grudges. Please follow me," he said. She slowly got up and followed behind him. As they were in a compound, they walked out of the compound and went to the streets of the Hidden Leaf. She smiled happily. She was free. She was going to go home and see her friends. She was alive. "Thank you," she said, as Naruto merely nodded. As she raised her eyebrow, "Why does it seem like you don't get thanked very much?" "Because I don't do a lot of good things," he said. "You're joking, right?" she asked. "Who knows?" he said. He was probably joking. No one could say something like that, and the way he said it, it wasn't even look like he was joking, but he was perhaps joking, but he was just too serious for her to tell. As she was brought to the Hokage's office, as Tsunade smiled, "Yujito," she said, "I have to say that we're happy we managed to retrieve you. Otherwise, we would have a problem with Kumo. The man who took you was a former Jinchuriki of this village, so we assured the Raikage that we would find you." Yujito could only nod. "I'm going to take her back to Kumo," Naruto said. "What of the Raikage's brother?" asked Tsunade. Yujito was alarmed. "He was taken as well?" "That is nothing to worry about," Naruto said. "I'm sure he's safe wherever he is. The Raikage will be sending you a thank you message in the next couple of days," Naruto said. Tsunade gave Naruto 2 scrolls. "That is an invite to the Kage Summit." And I laid out another scroll for the Raikage. "You need to be back by the end of the day. We have to talk about him," said Tsunade. As Naruto nodded, "I will return shortly." He placed a hand on Yuji's shoulder, and then they were gone in a flash. And just like that, they were in Kumo. Yujito felt a little sick, but she held herself. Now she understood why. She was saying that he should be back at the end of the day. He could teleport. The fourth Hokage's jutsu, yes, Naruto was a man's son after all. This time around she took the lead, as they walked a bit before she took Naruto's hand and they sunshine away, as she wanted to reach the Raikage to see her friends after done speaking. It took a moment for them to reach the large office of the Raikage. The Raikage rushed over to Yujito and examined her for a bit, before turning to Naruto. One more is still missing. That isn't any of my Before Naruto could finish a sentence, the Raikage's fist was coming towards his chest. Naruto simply stepped back, as the fist passed him. That isn't the arrangement I had with your Hokage. If my brother is not returned, I swear you will regret it. Hardly. The agreement was, if we retrieve the ones that were captured by Madara. But your brother wasn't captured by Madara. Blinked. What? What's that supposed to mean, he said, as he was now confused. Your brother used the opportunity to run away from home. I don't know where he is, but he wasn't taken. He just ran off. That idiot, he said. And just like that, he punched through the wall. Yujito, come, we're going to look for him. Darui, find C immediately, he said. And then he jumped off. As Naruto blinked, did that just happen? As he found himself questioning the Raikage's behavior. Well, it was likely that he knew where his brother went off to. I'm sorry about that, Mabi said to Naruto. Naruto merely shook his head as he handed her the scrolls. I will make sure he replies as soon as he comes back, she said. As Naruto nodded, and he flashed away. A month later, Kurosaki has a deep scowl on her face as she arrived at the Hidden Leaf. For some reason, they were celebrating the Kage's arrival. Who would have expected that? The meeting was supposed to be held here. It was supposed to be a week ago, but she was hesitant to come here, as she knew that she was probably the last one to be here. But they wouldn't dare to try and kill her off right here. That would just mean war, but she was still afraid. But the feud lord came to the village elders, and she was forced to come here. She was forced to listen to them. And in the end she came. Konoha said it was fine to bring the stone Jinchurikis. Till this day the village continued to deny about what happened to her grandfather was their doing. She was angry with them and she was going to use the summon to point the finger at Hidden Leaf, as she already hired professional assassins to assassinate Mei and Sasuke. They had already been paid. She was going to use her shinobis or something like that. Not when she knew that Kiri, Konoha and the Sand entered into a three-way alliance that also included military aid. As Kurosaki was led straight to the Hokage's tower, as she came face to face with the woman who refused to give in to her demands. Tsunade was with the Raikage. They seemed to be getting along just fine. Tsunade stood up and welcomed Kurosaki. Today leaders are becoming children, but it wasn't to say that they can't do their job. Gar was a prime example to this. He was young, but he was a great Kazekage. I am glad you made it, Tsunade said. The others have already arrived. This is your second day now. Kurosaki felt uncomfortable and Raikage turned to face her. He was glaring at her, showing his discomfort. I was told that a young one had taken the reins of the Hidden Stone. I didn't expect it to be a young girl. I am not some young girl, she said. She was here as a stone leader. She wouldn't allow anyone to insult her position. Ace shrugged. If we're going to agree on something like this and you kept us waiting, you are still a child that continued to be rebellious. You were informed the reason why you had to come here, and yet you keep us waiting like this. I cannot respect anyone with that attitude. Your grandfather wouldn't do something like this, stubborn as he was. Kurosaki clicked her tongue as she glared at Raikage. He was giving her a lecture. But she turned towards Tsunade. I'm here. Show me the evidence that you didn't do it. Tsunade did not smile, as she didn't like the tone that Kurosaki was using. Are you telling me? Kurosaki then realized she was speaking to other Kages. She gritted her teeth and spoke in a quiet tone. I'm asking. I don't want to lecture you, said Tsunade, but if you don't keep an open mind, we can't solve anything. Regardless of what we show you, you might not believe it because you're angry. But I understand that you're angry, but don't let that cloud your judgment. You're the leader of the Hidden Stone, and your decision here will decide the fate of your village. I have already told you we did not do it, and we will not meet your demands. But if you want to fight us, we will defend ourselves. Kurosaki just remained silent. She had to think for her village, as she knew she went up against Konoha she would lose. So she put her village in her best state right now, as Konoha had too many villages back in it, and she will definitely get wiped out if they go up against them. I understand the situation very well, but I cannot accept anything I will not believe. If I believe you're speaking the truth, I will call off my demands. Tsunade smiled. I have already showed the others what I'm going to show you. and they have already discussed it, but I'm afraid you won't get much time to discuss it with the others. There's no time, the others want to leave by tomorrow noon. We will have our summit tomorrow morning. Kurosaki nodded to this. She couldn't refuse. It was only her against the other Kages, and she was the one that decided to come late. I will have to take you blindly, because the place I'm taking you is a secret facility. Even if you're a Kage, we cannot let you know of its location. And just like that, she was taken away to the facility. Later that day, Naruto was sitting with Temari, as the both of them were talking. Yes, our life would be certainly different if we hadn't met you, Temari said. I can say the same thing, the sand offered us comfort when we needed it the most. There were days when we couldn't get by in this village, but the sand gave us happiness. Temari raised the eyebrows, staring at Naruto. Naruto felt her stare as he looked at her. You never smile. How can you say you were happy? She asked him. My happiness is not measured by my facial expressions. Temari laughed. Yeah, she said, with a sarcastic tone. Perhaps happiness isn't the right expression to use, Naruto said. Content, he said. I can accept that, Temari said. I do realize I think about the past a lot when I'm with you. Naruto wouldn't say that the past did not come up when they're in front of each other, but he wouldn't bring it up. That is because when you're with a certain person, you want to think about good things, picture the future, but with us you cannot. Our good times was in the past. Temari sighed, he just said it like that. You're gonna make me say it, aren't you? She asks. You mean that your brother prefer me as a husband for you? Naruto asks. She glared at him. If she wasn't used to his purse, she would have hit him out of embarrassment more than anything. But she stopped being embarrassed in front of him long ago. Really, the thought of being in a relationship with him was a bit natural. She had thought about it day in and night when her father made that announcement long ago. She had thought about it when she spent time with him. You were thinking about this, Temari said. Because you were never afraid to voice your thought before. I'm still not afraid, Temari, but I have grown. I'm not the same child I was back then. Besides, you're not someone who I can just say things to. I really have a lot on my hands. I'm sparring with clan heads, trying to work out business with. And when I can, I have to sit with my mother and work on creating seals. And I still have my responsibilities at the Uchiha clan. My mother once fought for me to be happy, but I never really gave it a try. Perhaps I prefer to be miserable, but I think I might try it now. If you're willing, we can enter in the contract we had before. You know, we're still young. There's time to think about things deeply and decide what is best for the future. My future isn't tied to one place. I'm here today. In next 5 years I may not be. Temari smiled. Another contract, she said. As Naruto returned the smile. Well, it started with a contract. It seemed fitting. Who will witness it this time around? Your brother and my mother, he said. Well, you can't keep the mother out, can you? Naruto smiled. As he stood up and leaned over to her, his face inches away from her, making her face became really flustered. Not on everything, he whispered. You can't include her in matters of the bedroom, can you? Temari stumbled back a bit. As Naruto chuckled. As she smiled, when was the last time she had him laugh? Come on, he said, holding out his right hand. Temari took the hand. In the agreement, can we add how you shall behave? I think you're the kind of person who would behave obediently. If you had to follow through the agreement witnessed by your mother, she said. That is like holding a knife at my throat. But I can't complain about such things. It's going to be interesting, he said. The next day, as everyone was in the chamber, Kurosaki was standing alone. As the Kazekage was chatting with the Mizukage, Tsunade was talking to the Raikage. She was alone. If her grandfather was here, would it be like this? But she didn't want it to continue like this. She came to understand the importance of the allies in the Grade 5. When things are dangerous, you need someone to back you up. If the stone had an ally, they could have forced Konoha to act, but because they didn't, they couldn't do anything. Kurosaki-san. As she turned, it was him. Oh, it's you. Please don't adjust me so lightly, she said to Naruto. Why do you sound like you were expecting someone else? Naruto asked. Who was she expecting? No one. It sucks being the black sheep. I just wasn't expecting you, she said as she glanced at the clock at the entrance. It was 15 minutes before the meeting was supposed to start. I could join the others but seem occupied. All of them, really. Seeing that we're the nation hosting this, it wouldn't be best to leave the guests alone. A matter of my own making, she said. I wasn't very nice yesterday. That happened when you're going through the motion. But I'm certain what you saw satisfied you, and we're no longer enemies, he said. She gave a nod before closing her eyes for a moment. This isn't going in the same way that she planned. She never expected to see what she saw yesterday, and she could not deny what she was seeing with her own eyes. She would have to go back home and convince the people that Konoha was innocent. That aside, the Leaf wasn't holding a grudge against her. Well, they don't know what she has done. If those people she hired got caught, it was going to be a problem. Even if they wasn't succeed, an attempt would put everything in jeopardy, even after what she has been shown. Yes, we're not enemies, she finally said. Excellent, said Naruto. This is currently like the situation in the Elemental Nation right now. The stone doesn't have anyone to back them. Even if you people are betrayed, you are outnumbered, he said. She grunted. She could not deny that. There is something I didn't tell the Hokage or the others, she said. As Naruto looked at her curiously, she placed a hand over her mouth, made sure no one read her lips. I paid someone to kill Sasuke and the Mizukage, she whispered. The kind of reaction she was hoping for she didn't get. Well, that is a little problematic. And I assume you're saying this because you're not the people who cancel a mission once you're being paid. Kurosaki nodded. Why don't you just hunt them down there to ask? It will take some time and I don't know when they will strike, she said. I assume that you're telling me this because you know of my close relationship with the two. Yes, she said. Sasuke will be fine, but I will speak to the Mizukage. And if I'm motivated, I will help with the hunt. What do you mean if you're motivated, she asked. Naruto merely smiled. I'm not the devil, he said. You can rest assured I don't have any other motives. But you can't really trust a word I say. Yeah, that happens, but I know your secret. And I say I will do something about it. Nothing is for free in this world, she said. That is true, Naruto said. How about this? He held out his right hand. Let's be friends. I don't really make a lot of friends. Do you accept it? She looked at him. Reluctantly, she said, as she held out her right hand, and the both of them shake hands. Excellent. When is your inauguration, he asked. In 3 weeks, she said. I expect an invite. Perhaps I will bring a friend. You know, the Mizukage or the Kazekage. The Mizukage was on her way to see your grandfather about the agreement when the situation occurred. She nodded as they thought for a couple of minutes until Tsunade called everyone to order. As the host, she was leading the meeting. 4 hours later, Naruto wasn't used to picking up alcohol, but he was tired. As the meeting went on for a long time, but they came to some agreement. The summit would occur, and each village would take the honor on hosting them. Whoever hosted will be the leader of the meeting. A fitting arrangement. It was just the beginning though. With the Kages, trust were everything. They needed to trust each other. As Naruto was in his study, he heard a knock. Come in, he said. As Yujiro came in, she was wearing an envoy uniform. As she looked at him without her mask. I was told to inform you that Mizukage wants to speak to you before she departs. Naruto nodded. A very odd tone from her, but she was on foot. Are you done for the day? Yes, she said. Naruto motioned for the chair in front of his desk. I've been helping fix things with the Kages. For the future. Since we have the time, let's talk about our future, he said. Her expression softened as she sat down. I hope it isn't one when you're working day and night. Since you have been over the past months, I can't compete with papers. Naruto smiled. I've been working hard because I want to free up some of my time. Mikoto is going to live in the compound with us. We have decided that it's going to be simpler with a child. She stared at him. Well, she should have expected this. Well, at least she was still in the future. He was trying to restore his clan. He was recently put under laws, the CRA Act. I heard that you were chatting with Tsuchikage. Plan to make her a part of her harem, she asked. That was for other reason, Naruto said. What do you think of this future, he asked. Complicated and it's sure going to be troublesome. I will certainly have arguments in this house, she said. But I can't imagine my life any different. I knew what I was getting into. When I told you I love you, she said. Excellent. I'll try not to make it miserable for you, he said to her. I think you're just going to make it miserable on purpose when you say that, she said. You know I'm not a bad person, right? If you say so, she said to him. Time skip. It was currently at the council meeting, as Naruto was looking at Hayashi. Are you going to admit that Uchiha is carrying your child? Hayashi said. Why should I, Naruto said. It doesn't concern you. It isn't your business. Whether we confirm it or deny it, nothing's going to change. Or are you perhaps scared that the Uzumaki and Uchihas are going to dominate and make you a memory? You seem to be having a hand with everything of the future, so it does concern me, Hayashi said. If we adopt your training methods into the academy, you will be the one implementing them, and you will be at the academy. Because you will be the one to successfully implement them in all the students. The Uchihas are being trained by you. It looks like the village security is right in your hands. So, yes, it does concern me, Hayashi said. The Hyugas claim that the Byakugan can see through all things. You shouldn't be worried about missing a few things, Naruto said, if you are that trusting of your eyes. You only say that because you put barriers around the Uchiha and the Uzumaki compound, Hayashi said. It does appear that you're just mad that you can't spy on us. And besides, we can do whatever we want. That's enough, said Tsunade. I don't think we need to watch this, she said. As the rest of the members already started to file out because the meeting was already done, but these two just started to argue. Before Naruto could leave, he was stopped by Shikaku. Shikaku was a friend though. You should come someday for a game of Shogi, Naruto, Shikaku said, with a pleasant smile. It has been ages since I last visited your compound. I will make some time, Naruto said. I hear you've been busy, Shikaku said. Naruto nodded. The training methods I'm developing takes time, and I still have to spend hours creating new seals, and the barrier for the village is not easy either, he said. But I will make the time though. And with that they separated. When he stepped out of the chambers, he saw a smiling Mikoto, as she was very pregnant. He didn't mind walking in the street with her though. He has done it a couple of times the past week after she visited his compound. It was no longer something that people talk about. It was something normal. Everything went well, she asked. Well, yes, but Hayashi can be annoying at some time, he said. As Mikoto nodded, because she knew how annoying the man was, asking all kinds of questions. She placed her hand on her belly as she spoke. The days are getting nearer, she said. My third one, but this is the one I'm most excited about. I won't tell Sasuke that you just say that, Naruto said. We haven't even figured out a name yet. That is because you don't want to know the gender, Mikoto said. If you had let those people tell us, we would have made preparations already. I want to be surprised, that was all he said. Besides, we can think of both male and female names now. Well then, what would you name her if she was a girl? I don't know. If she's a girl, you will name her. I wouldn't even mind if we call her Mikoto. Why Mikoto, she asked. Because it was you that brought me to the joys of the world. In the past, I was only thinking about protecting my mother. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be like this. And I wouldn't be this happy right now. There have been moments when I haven't feel alive. But because of you coming into my life, I feel alive, Naruto said. And I can think about the future well. And I'm glad that we did what we did. And we're right here, he said. She smiled happily and took his hand. I don't mind if people are watching. Look why I'm acting like a little girl now, she said to him. I expect this kind of behavior from Ino. But when people are truly happy, you can't fault their actions, he said. If we get a girl, you will name her. But thinking about the next one, if he's a boy, I will name him, he said. Next one? I didn't think you took me seriously last time we spoke about that, she said. Well, I was thinking about it, Naruto said. And there is no one better, I would think, to be the mother of my children, he said. I have acted somehow to Yujeo, sometime even the Ino and Temari. But you hold a special place in my heart. I wouldn't have admitted this before, but this is true. Well, I am honored, she said. Sasuke will get bored once you move out. He will have his duties though, to keep him busy, she said. But expect him as a daily visitor to see his sibling. Somehow that doesn't make me happy, Naruto said. I don't like really sharing things. She nudged him in the shoulder. You shouldn't be saying things like that. Besides, if you think I could have you to myself, do you really think I would have wanted to share you? As Naruto thought about the circumstances, restoring of the Uzumaki clan. Difficult process, but he had thought over things and he was ready for it. Time skip. What's on your mind? Asked Kushina. I want to show you something, Naruto said, as he held out his hand. She took his hand. What is it? She said, as the both of them disappeared in a flash. When she arrived, she looked around. She could never mistake her home. She lived in this place before it was destroyed, along with her parents and the rest of her family. As she and Naruto walked through the village, she saw a new, builded house in the heart of the village. With a large gate there, there was a large Uzumaki symbol on it. She touched the gate before it glowed, and it opened up. She wanted to cry looking inside. It was a compound. The place was so beautiful. It was surrounded by light, red flowers. She turned to face Naruto. She quickly gave him a big tight hug. Thank you, Naruto, she whispered, as he hugged back his mother before they broke the hug. I was actually afraid about your reaction, but I thought that since we're bringing back the clan, we can also bring back the village as well. We can come here anytime you want. There is nothing to worry about, I love it, she said. When did you do this though? I only even thought you barriers recently, and a chakra barrier. You really are learning, she said, with a very proud voice. A home of the Uzumaki should be shown by being warded. I only applied the barriers a week ago, he said. I had side work on this before the first Kage summit. I was sending clones to help the rebuilding. She smiled. Well, are you going to show me around the compound? As Naruto smiled and held out his right hand as she took it, as they went around. As he had built a wonderful large compound. And the documents they could place here the important things about the clan. Future descendants could live in this place. Perhaps they could rebuild the village completely. But this was just a start he could provide right now. I always figured that you want to return here, since Konoha was never like a home to you, she said, as she felt a bit nostalgic, seeing her old house. The place was just bringing back so many memories. It was wonderful. I figured you wouldn't want to go to any other villages, besides the village you were born at, Naruto said. Leaving Konoha to another village wouldn't be pleasant, especially after your father and your sacrifice, Naruto. But this is our home. I cannot reject this, she said, as a small tear ran out of her eye, as she was crying, but with pure joy, she was so happy. Time skip. Konoha Hospital. Tsunade released a sigh as she stepped out of the room where she had been helping Mikoto deliver. Those monkeys were standing just in front of her, barraging her with questions. There had never been concern for both the mother and the child, as they know that Tsunade said that everything was safe, so everything would be safe. As Tsunade ignored them and glanced over at Sasuke, he was standing by the wall, his arms folded across his chest, looking cool. She snorted as she turned towards the entrance. As Naruto was standing there, as she saw his face, he was a little jumpy, but no one seemed to mind him though. Okay, everything is fine, she said, but Mikoto needs to rest. Naruto, you can go in. The rest of you need to follow me. She thought it was best to give mother and father some private time with their newborn child. As Naruto walked over towards the entrance, his heart was pounding ridiculously fast. This was the moment he has been waiting for, since he heard that Mikoto was pregnant. As he just stood there, Tsunade shook her head as she slapped him on the shoulder. He jumped at the contact, as she couldn't help but laugh. Get a hold of yourself, you're embarrassing yourself, she said, as she pushed him in the room as she stood guard. As Naruto entered, he saw Mikoto. She looked tired, but extremely happy. Wrapped in the sheet was a baby she just given birth to, her child, and Naruto's. A warm smile graced her lips as she saw Naruto. His footsteps were slow, he steadied himself as he smiled nervously. The image was beautiful, mother and child. And he was the father. As she stepped forward, coming near to the both of them, as Mikoto gave him a smile and handed him the baby. As Naruto slowly took it, he removed some of the sheet. As he saw the black hair, the baby was sleeping. As the baby's eyes slowly opened, as the baby reached out his hands, as Naruto held out his hand, the baby could only grasp one of his fingers. It was so small. The child was so precious, so beautiful, so important, and it was his child. He still didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. But at this point it didn't matter, he was holding his child, and that was all that mattered to him. As he then heard the door behind him burst open, with Tsunade shouting, but he didn't turn around. I think it's gonna rain today, said Yujiro. I never seen such a smile from him. As Naruto's smile was plastered on his face, he couldn't help it. As Naruto saw a flash, as Yujiro took a photo. Let me hold the baby, said Kushina. I can't let go, mother, Naruto said. The big smile on his face. As everyone gained a warm smile on their face. But guys, this is where this ends. I hope you guys enjoyed this series and thank you all for following me on this journey. And remember, don't be sad because you know, new series are coming up, so just be happy guys. But yeah, this is finished now and I'm out. Peace.